Welcome back to Light the Wick. Charles, I'm going crazy going back and forth. I can't keep up, but I'm trying, Charles. I'm trying to do a good job.
Yes. We've got our wonderful, legally dissimilar John Wick music by Kevin Blumenfeld. Thank you very much to Kevin for supplying us with that and for risking his legal status.
Yeah, well, that you say legal status. People don't know this. Kevin is from Canada, and if he gets in trouble, he will be deported. So it adds a whole nother level of drama to this whole thing. So I'm glad you brought that.
What did you say? He's from Canada?
You said his legal status. So I'm just trying to elaborate on what that is and why it's even more of a razor's edge every time he does a legally similar piece of music. But anyway, we'll wish him the best. We're back with even more stuff. Well, you brought up that we talk about Dark Knight Rises at the beginning of this episode, right?
Yes, we do. We talk about the Frozen River sequence of Dark Knight Rises. It's really cool to hear him talk about how they did that and where they did that, which is really fun. Also, he gets to rank the Mission Impossible movies, so we do get a little bit of Mission this week as well, which is nice.
Yeah.
But it's mainly John Wick, so brace yourself for some awesome John Wick stories. And also want to say that we do reference Dan Lawson as just Dan, and Dan Lawson is the cinematographer of John Wick 2 and 3, and we don't have him yet. I think we mentioned him like we're going to talk with him on Monday, we say in the interview. We are still working on getting him, and I'm confident we are going to get him on the show, and it's hopefully going to happen. So just wanted to let you know that's who we're talking about when we say we're talking to Dan on Monday. That's the DP who also works on these movies with Kevin Kavanaugh. So, that's about it for now for me, I think. You got some sponsors you want to tell us about?
Obviously, Charles, this is my favorite part of the show. I want to say that, first of all, this episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon and his podcast, My Favorite Album. He talks to all these fabulous people about the music that inspires them. And during the quarantine, he's gone a little off the rails and talked about other things that inspire him and brought us on to talk about Mission Impossible versus 007, which is a topic we will be discussing further on our Patreon. So please, again, I just want to throw this in here real quick. Subscribe to the Patreon. It rules. This episode is also brought to you by John B. and Real Estate Interests, LLC, commercial real estate advice for growing companies. So if you are a company and want to consult with them, even if you're not looking to buy or sell, they will help you out. Also, a listener has brought up the possibility that they are some kind of elaborate shell company for a spy organization. We're not so sure about that, but
no comment
on that one. But check them out. They're great. And I think that's it. We're going to throw it to more of Kevin Blumenfeld's legally dissimilar music, and we'll be back after this.
I have one quick question about Dark Knight Rises, something that's I've always wondered. Did Nolan say he doesn't want to see trash piling up in the city? Because I've always wondered, the city is totally closed off. Mm-hmm. No one is going anywhere, and yet there's no trash anywhere, and everybody's in a lovely three-piece suit the whole time.
Yeah.
Was that like a no, I don't want to see any trash, Kevin?
I don't remember. I think we wanted to keep the city we didn't want to get too many. We wanted to keep the architecture and the streets and everything kind of clean and kind of clean looking. Just pay attention to the architecture of the buildings and the streets without getting into too many. And then we had the snow, which kind of just like a nice layer over that architecture. So,
was that shooting in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, we shot in Pittsburgh. Yep, Pittsburgh. We were in like 4 or 5 different. We were in London, Pittsburgh, a lot of it in Los Angeles, and in India too. We shot a week in India.
Was there water underneath that ice sort of plateau? Was there actual? Could you actually go down into the water?
No, not at all. We shot that in the LA River, believe it or not, on a hot 100 degree day. Yes.
What?
Yeah, we built on the LA River, so. You don't know you're in LA, you think you're in Gotham. But we built a platform probably about the size of a football field. And it was all paraffin wax. It wasn't even ice. It was like wax that we...
Wow.
Yeah. And then we built a hole in the middle of the ice, or in the platform. And then we covered it with like a breakaway wax kind of membrane that the guy falls through.
I love that scene.
That's awesome.
Sorry, we'll now get into John Wick because you were production designer on 2 of them, right?
Yep, 2 and 3.
So when you're going into 2, did they sort of explain to you how this world worked and what you were contributing it to it? Because 2 is when the sort of mythology really sort of blossomed.
I think so. Yeah, exactly. I think the first one, they were just trying to understand the story and the action and like who this character was and what this world was. And then the second one, we really kind of, we decided, the second act was going to be in Rome. So we kind of wanted to expand not only the continental, but this underground, but kind of in plain sight as well, the society and who these people are and what the rules are. So that was kind of like the fun part for me. It was just trying to, help design that and figure that out. Because a lot of that stuff not in the script is just kind of like, like the markers, for example. Like what is a marker that Santiago gives them? It's like you put your blood thumbprint on it and it opens up and like, what does it mean? And so like trying to figure out all that stuff and designing all that stuff was the best part.
It seems like Chad has a very clear understanding of that.
Yeah, he's got an understanding, but also he allows me and some other people to kind of come up with our ideas too, and like Chad ideas what he wants. He just doesn't know what it looks like, so he needs my help to kind of help him design what these markers look like, what these sets look like, and the action, design the action. We need to have a knife fight, or we need to do these these different action sequences. These museum, in a museum, and like for example, on the second one we had a mirror room. I know Chad wanted to do something with mirrors. He wanted to do a mirror house at one point, and I said, well, let's not do a mirror house. Let's do like an art exhibit. Like it's a maze of mirrors. And so he knows that he wants to do a mirror set. He doesn't know what it's going to look like. So that's where he relies on me in our conversations over dinner to kind of come up with these different ideas of what these sets are. So
well, and I imagine you had to sort of consider the same things that you were looking at with Mission Impossible 2 in terms of it's got to be able to safely break apart, gunshots have to go through it, all of that stuff. How much does that factor into the design and fabrication of these sets?
Well, it goes into it. That's not the first thing you think of. Every department head, whether it be the costume designer, the production designer, the cinematographer, the director, everybody thinks the movie's about their world. Like I think the John Wick world is all about production design. That's what the world's about. That's what the story's about. It's all about the sets. Where the costume guy, he thinks the movie's all about the suits. The stunt coordinator thinks it's all about the stunts. The cinematographer just thinks it's about the lighting. So we're all like super competitive. We're all like, Chad, this is a set, I want to do. This is some ideas I have. And he's going, Kevin, come on. Stick to the story. Stick to the script. Stick to what we have to do. It's like, all right. So Chad's always kind of reeling me back to what the story is. So that's the fun part about it.
Charles and I always talk about how much we love the tone of these movies, right? And there is a very specific tone. And the sets are a big part of that tone, I think, in establishing that kind of like, it's sort of goofy but it's serious. And obviously you got to really go crazy in the second movie with Rome and that rave and all that stuff. How hard is it for you to sort of establish that tone and maintain that tone through these 2 films?
Well, to me, it's about scale. And, on the script, it says one thing. It's like Gianna's bathroom, the bathroom scene where she kills herself. To me, when the script was written, there was a bathroom. She's in her bathtub. And I kind of took that and just blew that up. It's like we found this old Roman tunnels that we decided to do this big kind of bathhouse. It almost turned into a bathhouse as opposed to a bathroom. I kept on in the chat. I go, you can't do this big scene in a bathroom. We have to think of it as something else. So to me, it's about scale, and especially on these John Wick movies, we try to pick the biggest, most fantastic locations we can get permission to shoot in, and design the scenes and design the action around them. I mean, New York City, for example, it's a big giant playground for us, and Times Square and Grand Central Terminal and all these fantastic locations down there. Those are the places we want to shoot. So Chinatown, we wanted to have we have the big scene in Chinatown. So we want to take over these big squares and these big set pieces and do our action in these places. So that's the kind of mentality you need to have when you're doing, especially these John Wick movies. Like, what's the most iconic place in New York, in Rome, that we can shoot in? So,
What is your relationship like with Dan? We're talking to him actually on Monday. But
are you?
obviously, yeah. But obviously, the juxtaposition between the lighting and the sets is very close, and the lighting is very extreme in these movies. Do you have conversations like, "Don't fucking blow out my set with your neon lights"?
Exactly. No, Dan and I, we spend so much time together, and Dan's a fantastic guy. He's got a great sense of humor. You guys are gonna love him. And I'm always rubbing Dan, like, Dan, come on, enough with the neon, the LED lights. Let's let's put some different lights in here. Like, why? Exactly. And Dan's going, no, it's gonna look great. It's gonna look great. And go, all right, I trust you. But Dan and I are fantastic friends. We spent so much time together scouting, and like on the third one, we went to Morocco together. Dan, I was gonna go scout Morocco on the third one. And Dan said, well, let me come with you. I said, all right, are you sure you want to come with me? We're just going to be knocking on doors. We're going to be in a car a lot of the time. We're just going to travel around Morocco. And are you up for doing that? Because some people aren't up for doing that. It's like they're up for the first 2 days, but after about a week of it, they're like, get me out of here. But Dan was like into it, and we had such a great time. And it's, really got to know kind of find the movie, as I like to say it, when we scout. So those are the great moments.
You've now designed a Continental here and also a Continental in Morocco, and the world is expanding. Do you have sort of a design language now, or a kind of a Bible that you can consult when sort of making the John Wick world bigger?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it is, each one of these cities, Rome or Casablanca was what we were kind of calling it in Morocco, and New York, and then it's really kind of where each of these iconic cities throughout the world, what is specific to that region, and how can you interpret so exactly where you are without like have them all kind of look the same. They shouldn't feel like you're staying at the same hotel chain. You don't want that.
It's not a Hilton or something.
Exactly.
Right.
You don't want to have the Hilton logo everywhere. So each one has to have its own personality, its own kind of style. And I think on John Wick, on the last one, the Morocco stuff, it was funny. I was in New York. We were kind of getting set up in New York, and Chad wasn't there yet, and we were kind of trying to figure out what the Moroccan one looked. We thought we were going to shoot in Turkey. Believe it or not, we were going to be in Istanbul or Cairo. That's kind of what I was pitching, that we should go to Cairo and shoot this whole sequence in Cairo, and have the pyramids, and just kind of think kind of crazy. John Wick walking by the pyramids would be a fantastic shot. But then it was funny. Chad came to town in New York, and Casablanca, the movie with Bogart, was playing in the West Village. And I called Chad. I go, hey Chad, you don't believe it, but Casablanca's playing at the movie theater down the street. Why don't you come meet me down there? And let's just go check out this movie. I know it's an old movie from whenever, and let's go check it out. And so we looked at it, and I go, Chad, this is kind of what the Continental is to me. It's a place where it's kind of on the fringes of the world. And I don't know if you guys remember the movie. It's like a place where expats and people trying to escape Nazi Germany and people trying to escape. And you needed the right paperwork to get out of the grips of World War II. And that was, to me, was what the Continental was. It was a kind of a gathering point of these people, these kind of seedy characters, and you couldn't get out unless you had the right paper. You had to have the marker. You had to have the right coins. You had to have the right, just the paperwork and the right permissions to kind of move around. And to me, that's kind of what Rick's Cafe, to me, was the Continental of Morocco. That's how I inspired it from. And the Humphrey Bogart was kind of like the Halle Berry character. And that's kind of when I showed Chad, I go, this is kind of what I want to I kind of want to design the movie, not design what it looks like, but design the attitude of it. And then that from that point on, we said, all right, let's go look at Morocco. Let's go. We went to Spain and we scouted all throughout southern Spain because we kind of wanted more of a Moorish kind of southern Spain feel and play it as Morocco because it's a little more stylized. But then we settled in Morocco, and Morocco was fabulous. So, yeah.
Charles, I feel like I'm occupying too much time. So,
well, I kept trying to ask something, but I feel like you've kind of gotten into it. But I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask about just what were some of the other sets that were from 2 and from 3 that was the Continental just designed from the ground up? I mean, is that
it was kind of funny because after the second one, we kind of made the kind of a little bit bigger than the first one, right? We added a couple more rooms, and then the third one, Chad was saying, "Oh, we got to make this hotel. We got to figure out what this hotel is," because we kind of didn't really know. It wasn't like a floor plan of what this hotel was going to say. So, Chad, let me figure this out. So I had me and one of my illustrators, and we came up with this huge map, this beautiful diagram of what the hotel was. And because Chad kept on, well, let's do. We need more scenes in the hotel, but like we couldn't just keep doing the lobby. We couldn't just keep doing like these rooms, the bedrooms. I go, well, all right, let me come up with a bunch of different spaces. And like I remember one pitch I was telling Chad, I go, well, why don't we do like this underground boxing ring? And we have like bare knuckle boxing, and we did this huge. I designed this huge set with a boxing ring in it, and John Wick could be doing this big scene in his boxing. But, it's like we were just kind of come up with whatever ideas we could come up with. We were just trying to create this whole world. And that's kind of like the fun thing about it is like trying to figure out what this hotel was. And even the glass, on the last one, we had the glass room where there's like the floors and the ceiling. Like we were trying to figure out where is this, what part of the hotel is this in. So we were constantly trying to test ourselves of not getting too far out of crazy reality, but trying to keep it a little bit grounded. Like, all right, would this exist in this hotel in Lower Manhattan? And that's kind of like the boundary the gray line we try to live on. Like, is this place real or is it just the scale too crazy? So. Yeah, and then like the roof, we have this rooftop where he falls off the roof, and it's just all these crazy sets that we're trying to design within this one building, which is kind of like the fun part for me.
Does shooting on location also sort of inform your design choices? I mean, can you not go too crazy because you've just seen them walking through the Oculus in New York or whatever it is, that there's a reality in the world as well.
For sure. Yeah, there's definitely a reality. And you kind of want to know where you are. You want to know you're in New York. You want to feel the streets and the attitude of New York. So we're not trying to like hide that. We're trying to, acknowledge it and augment it and create this world that's there. But, the tourists and the people who live in New York don't know it's there. So that's kind of like, we're not like trying to hide, like that's the fun thing about it is like you have like the police force and the homeless guys and the trash collectors and the taxi cab drivers. They're all part of this world that you see every day when you walk down the streets of any city or even New York. And that's the kind of like the world that we're trying to build here.
So the rooftop at the end of 3, that was a set, and is there blue screen all around that, or how's that done?
Yeah, we built that on a soundstage. We on the second one we did a rooftop scene as well with Winston having coffee up there. And that was shot at Rockefeller Center, overlooking Fifth Avenue. And we went back to scout it, and the second time it was fine for the second film, but when we went back for the third film, it was like it's a little too small. It wasn't the right scale. We had more people up there. The scene was a little bit bigger scene, and we needed John Wick to fall off the roof. So we decided to build it on a soundstage and kind of create a bigger version of Rockefeller Center's rooftop. So that's kind of like where that came from.
And we heard that the very end of the movie was really late in the game, sort of reshot and reconfigured. What did that require of you and your team?
Yeah, we shot that back in Los Angeles. So it was a couple months later. So I was back in LA, back at home there. And I got a call from Chad saying, hey, we had to make up a new ending to the movie. I kind of always knew this too. I think it was like they were going to try to cut the movie together and try to figure out a good way to end it. And it's funny thing is, like, it took place in one of the old subway tunnels in downtown LA. And we had the hardest time finding and getting permission to shoot in these tunnels in New York. And Chad kept saying to me, Kevin, I really need to shoot to do a tunnel sequence. And I was going, well, Chad, they're not letting us shoot in there. The MTA won't let us shoot. And it was like, all these restrictions. And it just became, all right, forget it. We'll move on to a different solution to the problem. And then we get to LA and we find this fantastic tunnel. It's massive. It's no problem shooting there. No restrictions. Got the whole place to ourselves. And Chad was like, oh my God, I've been looking for this for 3 movies now, and here it is. So anyway, so it was great to shoot in this tunnel finally.
The glass in John Wick, there's so much broken glass, and so much of it is actually computer generated, we found out. So is that, it's those sets in the finale of 3, and then also the knife shop, they're breaking glass left and right. I think it's a knife shop. I don't know what that store is. It's some kind of weapon shop. Are you building these sets with glass and then being told later, oh yeah, we're going to do this all fake? Or, did you bring in glass there as a template to show what it would look like, or how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. So as far, we, again, just going back to like, what is the set? At first, on the script, and Chad said, I need to go and do this knife shop and do this kind of knife fight, like a snowball fight, as he called it. And I go, well, all right, well, is it like on the street? Is it like a restaurant supply store? Is it, a hardware store? Is it a knife store? And Chad goes, he was like, well, let's come up with some different ideas. I go, well, all right, why don't we do a revolutionary Civil War era antique store. That's what it was. And I go, we'll just do, everything will be like from the American Revolution, and it kind of created this like antique store kind of vibe to it. And so that at least gave me some sort of foundation to like go off. And it's like, all right, well, the guns that were there and the knives were all kind of like from that era. And even some of the set dressing, the statues and the couches, I was like, kind of like want to give it a little bit of a texture of like kind of like American Revolution and American War and the War of 1812. Just kind of have all this kind of memorabilia from battles, famous American battles. So that gave me the foundation to why there would be a knife store there, why there would be an alley, an aisle filled with knives. I needed something to kind of ground myself to it. So yeah, so I we built all the cases, we built all the knives, we built all in glass, all real glass. And then the stunt guys who had been practicing in a warehouse with cardboard boxes, they finally show up after it's like a couple of days before we need to shoot it. And they're thinking, all right, well, this doesn't really, we're really practicing this way, but, let's move this around. And we kind of, this needs this. I go, well, all right, well, we can take the real glass out. That's the easy part. And then we just have fake glass there. So a lot of the cases where the glass would just come out and there'd be no glass there. But then for some shots, we put the glass back in if the guys weren't breaking it. So it's easy to take the glass out. It's hard to like order glass and put glass in when you don't have it. So definitely all the glass was there.
That's cool.
Should we assume that you are coming back for 4 and 5?
Yep. I've been talking to Chad about that.
It sounds like it's full steam ahead. I don't know how much before the show, he was sort of telling me that they've already found some locations and stuff like that. So it sounds like things are moving along.
For sure. Yep. I think they just got done kind of doing the script and turning the script in, which Chad doesn't even send it to me. He just says, Kevin, go find cool locations. We'll design the action around the locations. How he describes it to me.
That's just like McCory talks about that with the Mission Impossible movies too. They work backwards from the locations.
A little bit, yeah. That's how, and I like to work that way too. It's like I don't need to know what's written on the page. Just tell me what's going on, and I'll find a cool place to shoot it. And it's kind of like I call it finding the movie. You have to go find it. You have to go down the street. You have to you have to knock on doors. You have to find it. Find out what the look of this movie is going to be. So. And the great thing about Chad is, he's an experienced filmmaker. He's been around forever, and he knows that what it takes to go out and scout and find locations and look at 10 different buildings that could work, and know that all 10 of those don't work, and we keep looking for the right place. So it's a bit of a challenge to kind of find the right locations and making sure they all fit seamlessly throughout the whole film. So
is there a particular challenge that you're looking forward to sort of tackling in these next two? It sounds like, without saying anything, it sounds like it's a more global kind of adventure.
Exactly. I was going to say that. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. I mean, no one's ever said, don't say anything. But one, because I don't really know too much. But I know Chaz we definitely want to get more global with it. And that's really the conversation we've been having, to be honest with you, is like, all right, where do we want to do this movie? Do we want to go to Japan? We were talking Buenos Aires. We were talking about Mexico. I'm throwing out all sorts of fantastic cities throughout the world. Mexico City. Do we want to do it in Russia? Do we want to do it? I mean, we did Rome, but do we want to go, Paris? All these different places. So it's really kind of, I don't know, just kind of seeing what's out there and seeing where we can shoot. And
do you have your eye on other action franchises? Like, oh, Mission went here, so we're going to stay away from there. Or Bond just was in wherever.
Right.
We're not going to do that.
Exactly.
Do you think about that?
Chad does, for sure. And I do too. I mean, I know they just did a big, like the Bond trailer came out, a couple weeks ago. And so there's a big car chase that is, I think it's in Istanbul or something. And Chad's like, oh, we can't do Istanbul. It's like, oh, they beat me to it, So I think that all those directors are all pretty competitive, and they're all like trying to outdo one another. So.
Oh man, we can't wait. Why are you in London? Can you talk about what you're doing?
Well, actually,
there?
Believe it or not, I'm not in London. I'm in Croatia.
Oh, Croatia, that's right.
Right. I'm looking at the sea out there, and I'm actually working in Budapest, in Croatia, on a small little Nick Cage film. So it's called Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. So. Oh,
this is the one where he plays a version of
himself,
right?
Right, and. It's kind of like this crazy Nick Cage movie, so I'm super excited about it. So we started shooting on Monday, so we'll see how it goes. But it's kind of fun. I'm having a good time.
That's awesome.
I know, right?
Charles, do you have anything? I know we're running late, so
we're running low on time. I guess we should have him. We should ask him to rank both franchises if he can.
Yeah, I mean, have you watched all the Mission Impossible movies?
I probably have, not in one night or anything, but it's kind of funny. I kind of like the last, there's the last three, right? They kind of I wouldn't say they're grouped together, but those are the last three. Then there's there's 6 of them. Is that right?
Yeah.
Then there's the first 3. I mean, the first one's pretty awesome. I like that, the train sequence there with Brian De Palma. He did that one, right?
Yeah, and also very short hair. If you're a short hair guy. The first one.
Yeah, right.
The shortest hair. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little too short, but he was young back then, so he got away with it. I would say, let's see, Fallout. I think the last 3, when it started getting a little bit funny. I mean, I liked it when, let's say the last one there, where he's really kind of getting beat up, and he's kind of he's really kind of play his, I don't want to say his, he's starting to feel the punches, it feels like on the last one. And I kind of like that about him, because it's you kind of grow up with these films. You kind of when I was younger, I was, and then once you get older, you're getting older too with Ethan Hunt. So you kind of can relate to him. At least, I can. So it's kind of nice to see. I'm always looking forward to the next one. So the last 3 to me are the 3 best. And they kind of have a little sense of humor to them too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you interact with Brad at all at Pixar?
No, I think he came in once or twice, but not really. It was mainly Andrew. So
okay,
yeah.
Okay, so John Wick movies. I know this is closer to home, but do you have? Can you rank which one's your favorite?
I think the last one. So it'd be 3, 2, then 1, kind of like backwards order. So the last one I thought was great. When I watched the second one, it was like, I wish I would have done things a little different, and for some things, it's for my own taste. It's like some of the sets were a little bit kind of like that mirror room we did. I just wish it was a little bit bigger, and some of the details I thought were kind of not quite right. I would have done things a little different back, if I were to do it again. But I think the last one was great. The last one I'm really proud of. So,
yeah, you've got your work cut out for you in terms of topping these last 2. So,
yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to get into it. I'm going to get into it probably in about a month. So,
great. Well, you'll have to keep us posted
for sure. No, I love your guys' show. You guys do some great stuff.
Oh,
And I
thank
like
you
the
so
fact You guys
much.
are doing some John Wick stuff. So
Yeah, oh yeah, we're getting deep into the Wick. Like I said, we were talking to
Sure.
Dan. We
right.
talked to Mark. What's Mark's last name, Charles?
Stockinger, he's a sound.
Yeah.
And we're talking to Luca next week.
Okay, good.
Costume designer.
He's a good character.
And we're talking to Rob.
He's in the second
visual
one.
effects
He's a
supervisor.
tailor in the second one.
We heard that.
Yeah.
You have to tease him about his acting ability.
We heard that he was like asking for more lines. Like maybe the tailor could come back.
I don't know. I think he was a nervous wreck the whole time. Like once the camera turned on, he was like wishing he didn't have any lines.
Yeah, we just want to get shot in the next one. So that's our goal. It's just to be.
That's a goal. Yeah.
We don't look good enough to be like an assassin, but maybe we were sort of like collateral damage in a scene or
There
something.
you go. Yeah.
A couple of tourists.
I think we could both play homeless guys, and we could get shot in the head.
Yeah.
For sure. You have to get shot in the head.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. I know we went over
Okay,
a little
I hope
bit,
I
but
helped
thank
out,
you.
so,
Yeah,
all right.
thank you so much. But keep in touch, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
Thoughts, Charles?
That was great. I love talking to Kevin. It's so cool to find somebody who was such a big creative part of both franchises.
Yeah.
It was also really cool to hear him talk about there's like a little bit of crossover with Rogue Nation, with him talking about all the Casablanca influences.
Right.
So there's Casablanca is a big influence on Rogue Nation, is also an influence on the John Wick movies. So it's really cool to hear that, it's just nice to find those the crossover between the two franchises.
Yeah, we love that. We love finding that connective tissue. And obviously his work is so incredible in both films as well, and everything that he does. And yeah, we are working on Dan Lawson. We can't wait to talk to him. He also shot Shape of Water, a whole lot of amazing things. So that'll be really fun to get to chat with him.
Yeah. He's basically now Guillermo del Toro's guy, right?
Yeah, I think he just finished Nightmare Alley a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. So yeah, it's busy. So I'm sure we'll get into all of that when we talk to him, not if, when we talk to him.
Yes.
But yeah, Charles, do you have anything else you want to plug?
I'm going to echo what you said at the beginning of the episode. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/LightTheFuse. We do bonus episodes every week there. We are keeping on top of all the Mission Impossible news. We're also going to dip into a little bit of John Wick there. There's a roller coaster that's being made for John Wick. And so we're going to do an episode about that. We're going to do all kinds of fun things. It's just absolutely great. You should go to the website, patreon.com/LightTheFuse, and sign up at the bonus content level or one of the higher levels, be a part of our monthly Skype chats. Also, check out our TeePublic store. It's linked from our website, LightTheFusePodcast.com. At the TeePublic store, you can get shirts, hats, masks, stickers, all kinds of things, tote bag, pillow, whatever. Anything you need. You need your house littered with Light the Fuse stuff, so please get things there. It supports the show. And then also check out our episode guide on the website. In the episode guide, you can see all our show notes for every episode. It's a really great companion to the podcast. And I also want to give a shout out. I want to say thank you to Dustin Catalan. So thank you so much, Dustin. You've been with us for a long time now, helping us out, making these episodes possible. So a big thank you to Dustin, and also to our intern, Abby Smith, who does so much for us with the social media. It's a huge help. Abby is awesome. And then also, of course, a big thank you to Luke Burson, who is our mixer and editor. And I think that's it for us with Kevin Kavanaugh. Next week, we've got the editor of John Wick 1, Elisabeth. And I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name because it's really hard. She's Icelandic. She goes by ER, which is awesome. She is so cool, and she's got really great stories and a really, really touching story to tell us by the end of that interview as well.
Yeah, she is one of my favorite people we have interviewed on either podcast ever. In the history of this podcast, she's one of my favorites, I think, that we've talked to. She is an absolute spark plug and so full of life and energy, and is just inspiring all around. So yeah, can't wait for people to hear that.
So come back next week. Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcast@gmail.com. The doors to any service or provider in connection with the Continental are now closed.